Kia ora from Aotearoa. Poppy here. Wanted to connect with everyone because I feel like we're all really going through it at the moment. And there has been some really big solar activity. So if you're a survivor of, all these terrible things, because I know that quite a few people that listen to me are, it can really start to bring up a lot for us. And yeah, somehow we just got to trust that it's all happening to bring greater alignment through us. And so yeah, I've experienced a lot of flashbacks, a lot of memory call. It's still been very intense, and sometimes it feels quite relentless, quite a lack of comfort and everything. So I'm sure that others are also getting pushed and pressed, and so I want to encourage people and myself, because as I say all this out, I feel like I'm also encouraging myself. It's a win-win scenario, really, and how things are. And then I also just want to go through some of the things that I wrote up the other day. I actually did mean to put it into a video, because I think there's some things that really would help if we were... It's just to put things into perspective. It certainly helps when I pick that up, and I I still very much rely on my meditation time, my stillness and my peace, and there's been a lot encroaching on that lately. It's been very, very tough, and bringing up just this super anger about the way things are and how everything just gets trodden over, nature and our way of living. Everything keeps falling back and tumbling into the artificial and the aggressive kind of energies that are around. Yeah, so with these solar flares, that this is pure consciousness light that comes through the sun with all sorts of light information which affects our consciousness. It's ultimately bringing more freedom than anything. And that's really, really important to keep in mind when we're going through, often we might feel desperation, we could feel frustration, we could be feeling anger, we could be feeling a lot. And this is really coming up to clear out of us, just to remember how powerful we are and the magic that we really, really are, that those that have tried to enslave us have been in fear of us knowing about. Yeah, so, to come fully into ourselves and experience ourselves, well, we are here to learn and grow and evolve. And so this solar activity, everything that's going on, we can take the most advantage of it. Anyone who's connected with nature is going to naturally come through and experience that. But when it gets so difficult and intense, especially for survivors, it can feel helpless and hopeless at times, and for some it can bring up programs which cause self-destruction. And please hold on and stay, and rather observe those programs, notice them, see that they're there, speak to parts that may be bringing them up, and gain a bigger understanding, and know that you also have these parts of you which are extremely intelligent, extremely wise, and to call those forth to help those other parts that are struggling. So this all comes through our hearts. It's really good to really breathe through the heart. Sometimes it helps me to just put one hand on my heart and one on my belly, and just sink, be in the body, allow yourself to feel your whole body and to connect to the different parts of ourselves, bringing in that hope, that knowledge, that intelligence from the higher versions of ourselves. Well, they're all part of our soul stream that are here, and they are the ones that actually have been keeping us safe. Yes, it's been really frustrating that there is still threats, that we still in some ways are hyper vigilant and hyper alert, and sometimes feeling the need to duck and dive, but we do have that incredible intuition through the portal of our hearts, which is true and free from deceit. We can actually trust it. There's been a lot of programming to cause us not to trust ourselves, and that was intentional. And we really are magical beings, and that is what those who tried to enslave us fear the most, that we actually discover that for ourselves again. Yeah, I had this experience. I was seeking help in the medical arena, in the Accident Compensation Corporation part of this country here. And, since I've actually discovered that SRA is legal, that people are used as assets in the system, and anyone that's an SRA survivor is most likely been, the programming has been on us to cause us to serve this COVID war, where we're stripped into parts that we aren't even aware of some of the things that we do. Sometimes we've been split to harm. I mean, just look at the politicians. That's what's happening to them, and they are harming, to the severest degrees, and more hopelessly lost than we are. And some of them are very, very, well, most, I'd say, that when you give your oath of allegiance to that satanic regime, you are really losing sight of your heart, and using, they're using artificial intelligence very quickly to keep themselves in power, keep the attention and focus on them. Really, we don't want to be giving any of our attention to them. What we focus on amplifies, and that's a very simple law of quantum physics. That so it's good to keep our attention on ourselves, loving ourselves, and nurturing ourselves, and just even holding the vision of getting out of this, anything that is just so comfortless. It kind of feels like the torture hasn't fully lost its grip, or it hasn't for me. I've been crying a lot because it's just, there's social programming in there that survivors are kind of dropped and rolled because society has been programmed to ignore us, not believe us, to turn away, and yet we've risen out of the most hellish experiences, witnessed murders, witnessed all kinds of terrible games where they have tried to make us believe the most terrible things about us, that we're absolutely evil, when actually we were born with super high frequencies, and that's partly why we were used. So yeah, I'm here with you. Yeah, so anyway, this intelligence officer, psychiatrist, gatekeeper, I know that he was an intelligence officer. I'm a trained counsellor, and when I had that appointment with him, his treatment towards me was actually abominable, and I was switched, and I felt myself switch, and now I realise that when you get that spinny feeling, and that happened after that session, that was because I had dissociated and got into a part, and that spinny part, and I needed to get back and ground back into my front person, the one who I feel is mostly holding the harmony of my system. And it was quite a revelation to me when I sort of experienced this spin feeling, and it was actually another survivor who said, well, that's actually the feeling of dissociating. And he sort of showed me a little bit of a way that I could come back into my body when that happened. But also the ACC counsellor at the time, who also had the energy of, like a spy or someone who's collecting information, and that is what they do. But they collect that information, and then that's used against us. So we've been dropped and rolled and kicked again and again and again and again, anything to keep this quiet, because they have all the legal everything, which they stand on and use. It's all protected in the courts. Within the system, they will do anything they can to try and get us conforming to that way, that slave master paradigm, and we're over it. We're totally over it, and no more. I claim that on behalf of me and as many survivors as I possibly can. Anyway, it was interesting, the questions that this man asked me, and I was very aware of a part that was actually sitting just outside of my body to the right, that was kind of like recording the session, because he wouldn't let me record the session, and I didn't have anyone with me because I thought I could record the session, but he didn't let me, and so I didn't. So I had my recorder part, which they actually designed. To record information for their purposes, right? I'm using it for my purposes now. But anyway, as I went back and I kind of remote viewed that session, and I looked and I saw the energy of that psychiatrist. I really now know that he was an intelligence officer. And then when I spoke to a programmer friend, I was sort of, he sort of indicated that he's probably with the NSA, National Security, which it goes through all the countries. So this country, it's part of the Five Eyes. So, we're part of the whole regime. And anyway, he asked me a question, almost condescending, like, well, do you think you can control the weather, And at that time, I wasn't actually aware of doing that at the time, so I answered no. But then it really intrigued me as to why he asked that question. And a lot of the questions he did ask me, because he just went in, like he thought he had me switched, but I had released a portion of my programming, so I was kind of not as fully disassociated. I was kind of disassociated in there, but my recorder part was really, really remembering, and I'm so grateful to that part. Now, we have all the most amazing parts within us survivors, we really do. And look, if you're not a survivor, I'm just so grateful for the support, for listening to this and having compassion, empathy, and for anything that you do to defend and support survivors. We're at the bottom. I have had my physical health issues ignored for 7 years. They've all been pinned as psychiatric, and they have been absolutely real. I've been in torturous pain. I have not been free of a headache since 2017, after the jellyfish sting, when all the memories just started to bubble up to the surface. It did something in me, reminded me. I ended up talking to a friend, and he told me about the wand that they use. They call it a wand, and it's a rod, basically. It's an electrocution rod. It gives electric shocks, and it has a cloth ball on it. And he was telling me about it. I could literally see it, and that it was used on me to shock me. Yeah. Anyway, with this whole weather thing, I started to play with it. We had some threats, some floods and all sorts, so I spoke to the weather, I prayed to the weather, I talked to the weather, and it really showed me how sentient it was and how connected we were, and it would calm down around me. And it's not to say that some people hear these messages and they try to do stupid psychic stuff, or may it all go back to where it comes from. I'm not taking any more of that shit. Anyway, we are one with creation, and with that sentience, we get a lot of messages from nature, and that we can actually be with it. Like, before all the illusion and everything was around, and before our attention was so distracted and always faced on outward to make a lot of money for the patriarchy. And when I say patriarchy, men and women are in that at the same time. I'm not saying it's just men. Please don't get confused about that. Some people do. And it was an era that formed in 3115 BCE that was a patriarchal era, because the left brain dominated, for men and women for a very long time. And that was where religion and science and everything was used to create belief structures that were actually pulling us away from knowing who we really are, and being that, and raising our children to safely explore themselves in nature, and be, and contribute, and just really be a part of this beautiful awesomeness. Yeah, so it's actually our perceptions that co-create reality. So a whole bunch of people are remembering themselves and their natural abilities as a major threat to those who are rapidly losing control of us. They are, but I don't know how many of you feel like you're sort of like at the end of running a marathon. You feel like you can almost see the finish line, but it's still a way off, and it's just like, am I going to make it? You will. We'll make it. We're saying no to control measures, and it's sending out a flurry of change that's distancing us more from their ways. It's really important that we do that. The ones that have been doing their best to control us have had access to esoteric knowledge that comes across very much like black magic or sorcery. And black magic is really just the deeds that are done in secret, in the shadows, in hidden ways. So anything in secret is in the dark and not of the light. So if people are saying, I can't tell you this and I can't tell you that, and they're all very mysterious and stuff, just bear that in mind, that there may be stuff hidden in the dark here. Because really, if everything and when everything is in transparency, this cannot happen anymore. And we are heading to that time where all will be set in transparency. Our telepathic gifts, all these things are coming back. Like, I'm really, really aware of my gifts coming back. And it's not difficult to see the power of legislation enforced and policies policed to keep societal hierarchical order, And since I did find out that SRA is actually a legal thing used for national security, but it's actually international security, really, they've defended that in the courts, and this is why they have protected paedophiles. And at the moment, things are happening where I feel like they're all pulling one another down. I think they're scrambling to hold more and more power, and now that so many of us are turning away from them, they're kind of going to each other, But anyway, the courageous ones among us have done a lot to bring what has had power in the darkness to the light, and this is disempowering that. So people so often run from it and judge it and seek to push it under again. And this is what I think is really, really difficult for survivors. A lot of people, they call themselves spiritual, they call themselves light workers. They're some of the first ones to say, shut up, Poppy, don't say that, Poppy, don't live in the past, However, they have to face the shadow too. They partake in the money system. They're partaking in children's spilled blood. So, if they are really light workers, then they're going to shine their light into that darkness, and they're going to expose it so that there's no more that is lost in secret and that is disempowered. So shut up, just shut up. That's what I want to say to you guys. And because you've been savage, left me to die when I called out for help, and just turned your back, because it's easy to just say, oh, she's just crazy, even when I was telling the truth. So it doesn't really matter when we are living from our hearts and healing out any remnants of trauma that causes attachment to others, people's places and things. If we're really, really living by our hearts, none of that even matters, that all of that happened, that all of those people did all that shit. That's their stuff that they're going to have to deal with. and you know, like, I'm just seeing more and more and more that it's actually survivors that are helping survivors. I think the ones that have helped me the most are actually survivors. They're the ones that really know. They know how true it is. They know how it is. You know, I kind of live this life where I go around suppressed and silenced because you can't talk about this in society. You can't talk about it hardly anywhere. So, and then people think you're dumb and retarded because, you know, you kind of like got all this stuff going on, but it's not safe for you to say things to them, especially if they try to intervene and do more harm. And they're programmed to do that. So, yeah, we've got to really look after ourselves. And I really think it's really time now for survivors to, I mean, my heart is with survivors. As I move forward, I want to be here for survivors and be really properly trauma informed. I do have training as counsellor and other modalities that can assist, and I'm meeting with others now that also hold that vision. So it will be a way of the future where we will be able to experience freedom from all the harm and everything that's happened. Yeah, one of the greatest bonds to trauma where people suffer from attachment is to the government. I mean, this is the ultimate trauma bonding. It's the ultimate Stockholm syndrome, you know. Even now that I'm having more and more memories of the main handler that I had when I was a child, there was definitely trauma bonding because I was attacked and punished for different things, and I had to be a good girl and I had to satisfy what he needed and wanted and programmed out of me. So he was also, as much as he was my persecutor, he was also my saviour. When I had near deaths, or when they bring you to the brink of death, or when you die and they bring you back, you know, it's highly, highly confusing. But anyway, there's no heart in government. A lot of these people work for the government. They are often people like mayors and town mayors and councillors and working in government agencies, gatekeepers, to make sure that the secrets never got out. I'm just so pleased for everyone that has been speaking up. I just wish more people would listen to us. But government was designed by the architects of the secret societies, and it is a game of domination and submission. Just like BDSM, where masters and slaves exchange sexual energy or loosh. So Jamie J, she's a supporter of SRA survivors. She presented this idea to me, and now it's obvious, so I'm sharing it too. And we don't have to play that game anymore. So she said her safe word is no, and that's our safe word too. No, no more. SRA is protected by the courts because it's the key foundation of the game, and it's protected by word spelling in the form of legislation. And this is a form of black magic. It's spelling. And it's I know that there's also ancient AI, artificial intelligence, which is all in this too. I mean, you can look at it in so many different lenses. But whichever lens we look at it from, may freedom come to us. I remember I attended a court case once, and it appeared to me that the judge was acting like a dominatrix, shaming attorneys, and I could feel the attorneys like just enjoying it, and it was really sick, and it sort of opened my eyes more to their games and ways. I actually was seeing two things at once. I was seeing the court case pan out, and then in my mind's eye, I was seeing this judge sort of dressed up as a dominatrix just whipping these guys, and you know, and it was just like quite horrifying. And one of the barristers, he actually walked out, and he said it within my audible range. He said, "Better the devil you know than the devil you don't." And he just said it like that as he walked past me. I think he wanted a reaction, but I wasn't going to give him one. Anyway, sovereignty is not within any master-slave structure where energy is extracted from people or nature to empower anyone. I was talking to a truther type guy the other day, and he reminded me how I used to be before getting to know more about who I really am. and dedicating myself to living from the heart rather than my head. I mean, I was in survival mode for a long time, and so it was kind of my head and my logic was trying to make a way, and it didn't work nearly as efficiently as when I came into my heart. So, I was a truther then. I was still very fragmented and operating through multiple parts that would come up with certain triggers. And some of them could be nasty. I had a very strong power of the tongue to lash. I felt desperate that others would adopt my truth, and together we would co-create a peaceful and harmonious new earth. The thing is that I learned, lessons learned. That means that's done. And I move on. It's really, really hard being at the bottom of everything. I haven't been able to work. My health has been bad. I'm begging for money just for some health needs. And sorry, I've just been blessed with a little bit from someone that's just going to have a healing session tomorrow, which I really, really need. It's tough. Anyway, I felt strongly that if I proved my point, people would become free quicker. It only caused frustration and tension to me to keep my attention focused outside of myself. So truth can be distorted when relayed through different worldviews, and we only see or comprehend what we are ready to. If people aren't living in their heart, they have no concept of what it really, really is. And they will argue with their heads to kingdom come. They'll gaslight, they'll do anything they possibly can, diminish, be combative, whatever. I mean, I was once like that, and no more. I never intended to be. They'd made every effort they could to break my heart, and just the treatment from society and everything has been heartbreaking. So even though I have now learned that SRI and MK Ultra survivors know firsthand how the master slave system is run, it is still a choice whether people want to listen to us. Rejecting us felt perilous to me before I grew from it. So what happened to us is a huge deterrent to people even listening to us. So I'm super grateful to the survivors whose lives are an inspiration, the miracles in their life that birth their freedom. I'm also grateful to podcast hosts like Emma Catherine from the Imagination Podcast and Chantal Mayberg from Aquarius Rising Africa, who defend and believe in survivors and provided a way for us to be more safety heard. So even if people haven't even experienced SRA themselves, it's often the ones that are our supporters and defenders that actually get the audiences, because first of all, they're not judged as crazy. They don't have to pull all their parts together like we do. And I'm just so grateful to these people, and the more people that can do this, the better. And, they are brave souls. They wear the consequences of their loving actions with grace, in my observation. They also become highly targeted in defending and supporting us, and they do not avoid the darkness, needing light cast on it. They have beautiful and courageous hearts. And even Fritz Springmeier, who has been scrubbed from the internet, what a beautiful man he is, helping out survivors, 30 years ago or so, written the books, exposed everything out there, that term, by your fruits you know them, it's really speaking loud and strong, because there's so many people that claim to be, have all sorts of faiths, but they can still be vicious, and the fruits just don't reflect that goodness, that heart, that love. And then there's other people that have no particular faith, and they absolutely live this beauty, this heart, and they are incredible human beings. Homo sapiens, I should say, because that word human is a little bit false. The hue is the light man, but it's more like the Illuminati. It could be anyway. It doesn't matter. It's just words and terminology. When we can all get back to telepathy, we won't have to deal with any more of this shit. Anyway, I'm grateful to the survivors who are now confidently living new lives they have birthed out of the tortuous and horrific lives experienced until they miraculously freed themselves. They inspire me more than just about anyone else. They're the people I actually feel the safest with, the ones that I want to communicate with. For me, and what I've been through, I'm finding that it's actually international people. I feel really isolated and on a limb sometimes in New Zealand. I don't know any other survivors that are similar to me, who hold the same values as I do. So realising who I am and what I am capable of and the enormous power of my heart is also birthing me out of the past and into a new beginning that I will share with others, and also know who they are, their sacred connection with both the Creator and creation. I mean, that's something that's absolutely important to me. You can see it in the quantum physics reality, but the actual experience of it, like I just love being in nature. I love the peace and quiet of nature. When all that peace and quiet is taken away, I really struggle. We just can connect into them by connecting into our heart. When we connect into our heart, we are connected with the Creator and creation. They are our true parents. So I feel one with them now. I am one with them and they are one with me. My innate gifts are building and returning the more I know myself and bring my parts together, and the more I remember, the more I disconnect from attachments founded in trauma. So the plasma light coming through the sun enlightens all that are receptive, and it's coming through in masses. It's just huge. Could even be enough to take out all the frequencies. And oh my gosh, well, how's that going to be when all those frequencies are gone? What peace, what harmony we may feel. It might be a really good thing. And we will find that our gifts will work. They won't be interfered with. They are trying to stop these beautiful gifts that we have with the frequencies. And the sun is really intelligent. It's coming from the cosmic axis, the heart of fire sky. So, it's pretty special. Anyway, because we share these consciousness light that does come from the sun, that's why we experience parallel life trajectories with others whose hearts are leading their lives. And so this is why often we may feel like we're struggling together, or we may be celebrating together. We will celebrate together. We are going to have such an amazing celebration at some point, and but we've got to be in this now, in our bodies, grounded, not out on the clouds and everything, which is where I used to go to just to feel some relief. But got to have that from inside the body, in the heart. So our worlds may have been breached from the outside and stolen our focus towards abuse and chaos. And as children, we were easily manipulated and taken over. However, so many of us have been courageously uncovering all that was in secrecy and darkness by coming to know ourselves and purifying from all and any damage done. So let's just keep up that great work, no matter what, because our frequency is affecting things in a way that is freeing us from the old world that starts coming undone. Our frequency, that light, that plasma, it actually affects the different spheres around the earth. It changes things. It's actually, I don't know where I saw it. I've seen a little bit of contact lately, been looking at quite a few YouTubes because I can't stand the music that's been coming from next door. I'm actually hiding out in the bathroom to try and get away from that sound at the moment, just to record that, and then I want to put it to some beautiful nature scenes. I hope you can hear the tui outside the window. Tui has been talking to me all day. That's it there. So let's keep living from our hearts, which means being present within ourselves. Our gratitude, our loving truth, our innate gifts and abilities are rising far above it all. We truly are creating a new earth where our children may grow up naturally, where we may safely explore their worlds without being taken from us or raised as covert soldiers mind controlled to harm. And when people aren't survivors themselves, they'll think, well, that's a bit of a woo-woo statement, but that is exactly what they did. They took us, they tortured us, they raped us, they killed us, they brought us back, they did all this sort of stuff in private, and we were never supposed to remember, and then some of us have. And this was the MK Ultra stuff that is now being revealed. It's been showed that this actually happens, and and it's absolutely real. And, you know, if people do not have empathy, they're just not safe people at all. Anyway, the cost of creating freedom may have felt huge. It may have taken all our strength, and that strength came because we love. We purely love, and that's the miracle strength from within. Thank you so much.